All right, top of the hour. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our monthly Intelligence for Admins webinar. I'm Derek. I lead our customer education efforts here at TrackVia. If you've joined one of these in the past, welcome back. If you haven't, this is the first time you're joining one, welcome. We talk about all sorts of things TrackVia related, from how to build really cool charts and graphs in TrackVia to the more technical stuff, how to write app scripts to do certain things. Today's webinar is going to be on the more technical side of things, right, for our developers, our developer community. We're going to be talking about the developer experience. And to help us talk about that and explore that topic, we've got the one and only Kyle Turner with us here today. Nobody better to talk about this than Kyle. So I don't know if you want to say hi to everyone, Kyle.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. Nice to digitally meet you all. My name is Kyle Turner, VP of Software here at TrackVia. Been with the company for about 8 years, but strong background in mobile, web, and API development, and very excited to talk to you about our developer experience and some of the first things we've got to show you coming down the pipe from that.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Really excited for what you're going to talk about today. So what is that? Let's look at, well, actually, before we look at the agenda, I got a couple of housekeeping things for you. Everyone is on listen only mode, but we still really want you to interact, get your questions answered. So please use the chat feature of GoToWebinar to ask any questions that you may have, okay? As those questions are coming through, we'll kind of keep an eye on them. We'll answer them. If it makes sense to do it during the conversation, we'll do that, or we might keep them till the end when we have a section for questions as well. But please send them through as soon as you have them, right? We don't want you to forget. We are recording this webinar, and then we'll post it to the TrackVia University website shortly after the webinar, definitely within 24 hours, and we'll send you the link to that recording, okay? And we've got a cute dog in our webinar today, so that's great. All right, so let's talk about the agenda. First and foremost, we're just gonna set the stage here. We're gonna kind of define what a developer experience is. Okay, then we're gonna turn to what TrackVia is doing for a developer experience, right? What our vision for our developer experience is, what new resources we've brought you recently, and then what we see coming down the pike, right? What's next in terms of what we want to do for our developer experience, okay? Then we'll come back together. We will answer any questions that are outstanding and just wrap things up. All right, so let's do it. Let's get into it here. We'll talk a little bit about what a developer experience is. So yeah, Kyle, if you just want to kind of talk to us a little bit about how you view a developer experience in general.
Absolutely. Thanks for the tee up, Derek. I think I might date myself a little bit here, but as I was thinking about how to relay this initiative to our company when we kicked this off at the start of this year, I think back to 1995 when Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates stood up at the front of Windows 95 launch party for Microsoft. I don't know if you remember them shaking their fists up in the air in excitement about that launch. But that's how I relate to this new initiative that we're starting here, and my excitement around the fact that we're investing in this, right? And the developer experience program here at TrackVia is a new initiative in 2023 to drive commitment, quality, and innovation on the tools and processes and documentation that support all the developers out there in the world building solutions against TrackVia's platform. As we all know, we're in a digital world where these products and tools are becoming ever more important for us to build our businesses and our solutions on. And software development of all shapes and sizes, no code, low code, et cetera, has been really became a catalyst for creating value and succeeding in business, right? Today we have hundreds of customers out there building thousands of unique solutions with TrackVia's low-code toolkit of app scripts, microservices, integrations, APIs, SDKs, and more. And with our developer experience, our goal is to really create a community and start opening the doors to collaborate with the developers out in the world that are building solutions, to work with our engineers to create those best solutions and improve the toolkit that everybody's using to unlock more value, efficiency, and hopefully some automation in the solutions that we're creating.
Absolutely. Kind of comes back to the fact that, we know TrackVia is not the only thing that, run your operations, right? You need to tie into other systems, and hopefully we can, the developer experience is making that as painless a process as possible, right?
Yeah, it's been very impressive to see what you all have built integrating with our platform, and we realize that there's an exciting opportunity to start working with you to collaborate and continue building on those tools. And so, yeah, this is our investment to start opening that door up to work with you a little bit closer.
Awesome. Perfect segue then into, the vision of how we see our developer experience at TrackVia take shape over the coming years.
Absolutely. So I want you all to kind of imagine a world with me where we've got TrackVia software engineers and customer engineers across all companies that are building solutions with TrackVia, where we could collaborate together in a kind of a community-like forum, collaborate directly on code and in merge requests, and upholding the quality and possibilities of our tools. I imagine a world where we're all creating and collaborating to do that together. For example, in the world today, right, AI, ML, NLP are some common buzzwords that everybody's talking about. And our product and engineering department has started investing innovation resources in how we start bringing some of those technologies to the TrackVia platform. We'd love to start those conversations and collaborate with you all to see how we can maybe explore those kind of technologies coming into our ecosystem. So our long-term vision is to open up those doors of collaboration, start working with the developers out there in the world to build some of these services, and see what kind of exciting, innovative solutions that we can create together as we open these doors.
Awesome.
That's the vision. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, make it happen. So recently we've taken a couple of steps to kick this off, right? So we have a couple of new developer resources that you may have seen. We've sent out a little bit of communication on some of these things over the last couple of weeks, right? If you get our monthly newsletter, you may have seen it there. If you keep tabs on TrackVia University website, you may have seen it there in our new content section. But we've really done kind of two things here recently, right, to improve the developer experience. The first is that we've created a new course on the TrackVia University website that is kind of like a getting started with the API course. It's all of the most important knowledge that you kind of need to have to get going there. Okay, and then the other piece of or the other resource that we've revamped is our developer docs. Okay, this is the more detailed information about integrations. Okay, so we've totally revamped that site. Okay, so we're going to show you those two things in a minute, kind of a little show and tell. But equally as important, we also kind of want to hear from you here in this webinar. So as we go through these things, we would love to hear from you. What has been missing? What would you like to see added into our resources that we offer developers? Okay, so chat them through in the GoToWebinar chat. We'll read some of those ideas out loud when we get to the end, right? We'd love to hear from you on that. Back to what Kyle was saying, the vision is all about collaboration. So let's collaborate a little bit on that.
Let us know what you're missing or where we can add some more value, and we're going to start working with you all to do that. So get ready.
Excellent. All right, so we're first just I'm gonna flip over my screen here. I'm gonna move away from this PowerPoint, and I'm going to go to the TrackVia University website. Just show you the course that we've created. So if you haven't been here before, this website is just university.trackvia.com. We've got all of our on-demand e-learning hosted on this website. Okay, there's a lot in here. I'm going to look today particularly at the on-demand training section where we have all these e-learning courses. And there's kind of like different levels to our learning, our on-demand learning, right? We have core learning, we have advanced learning, and what we're looking at today is integrations. Okay, so we're going to go to the integration section here. We have a course on the integration platform. The new course that we just released is a course on using the API. Okay, so I'm going to click in here. We'll see what the curriculum looks like, what is contained in this course. Okay. So what we can kind of see here is if you look closely, this course is broken down into two sections. The first section is just getting ready to use the API, and the other section is actually making API calls. Okay, so for getting ready to use the API, we're talking about things like, how to set up API users, how to manage your API keys, your auth tokens, how to set up permissions when you're using the API, right? Things that you need to know kind of before you get started. And then the second section is, okay, I've done those prerequisite steps. Now, how do I actually make API calls? What does the information look like when it's coming back to me once I make the call? How do I make calls, right? What can I do with the API? And best practices too, right? So we recommend this resource for anybody looking to get started building against our API, okay? Like I said, this is more high level, right? When you're ready to get into the real nitty gritty, then we'll jump over to the developer docs page, and that's where you'll see more detailed information about certain things like SDKs, error messages, troubleshooting, that kind of stuff. Okay. So if you have any questions about the TrackVia University course, chat them through. We'll answer those. And in the meantime, we'll kind of switch our screen share over here to Kyle so he can walk us through the new developer docs page that we've released to you. I think this is probably the thing that most of you are going to want to see and be really interested in. This is the fun stuff today, I think.
Alrighty, make sure I do the right screen here. There we go. All right, looks like I'm coming through. Awesome. So I'm excited to give you all a little preview. This is live and out there in the wild today. As Derek mentioned, you might have seen some communication come through, but this is the brand new from the ground up developer trackvia.com. For the technical folks out there, this site was previously built in kind of a WordPress stack. We're using Next.js and MDX and some newer technologies that really allow us to work faster and iterate quicker on making continued changes and just an overall better experience of what's included in the developer site. One of the things I'm really proud of, being a kind of a mobile background, is, as you can see on the left, the desktop experience, and on the right is our responsive mobile experience for the developer site. So whether you're on your laptop or on your phone on the go, trying to learn a little bit more about what you can do with the TrackVia low-code toolkit, you've got a great opportunity to do that directly from mobile. A couple other just kind of really overview kind of highlights that I think are great about the website. We have a fun little Easter egg or support for dark and light mode for you all. So whether you're needing to view it in the evening and still keep up with your developer docs, you've got the ability to do that. Another really powerful feature that I'm proud to showcase is the search capability. So if you're looking for app scripts or microservices or any sort of question, it's actually scanning all of the website in real time and able to return those results to you instantly. So the search should be a really powerful and useful feature for you if you aren't sure where to look for something on the site. The search should be really robust and easy to use. Looking over here at kind of the left-hand navigation, we see some kind of high-level sections. I'm not gonna, I'll let you all get your hands dirty and start going through some of the content in here, but just to call out a few highlights that are, I think, really valuable and helpful for folks that are getting started with the kind of low-code toolkit, right, is we have a page around our integration options. So as you're thinking about how do I, integrate my data or my tools with the TrackVia platform, we've got a lot of ways you can do that today, right? And so you can start to understand, what our options are that we have available, what some of the differences or pros and cons are, and start to understand, these are all the ways that you have the ability to integrate with our system. The other thing I want to call out, as Derek kind of mentioned, we've got a troubleshooting section. So if you're starting to integrate with the API and want to understand, for example, what some of the error codes are that are coming back, right, and what that error message may mean and how to resolve it, we've got some helpful examples here of different error cases that can come back from the API. So please, we ask you to get in here and get your hands dirty and kind of dig around at all of the content that we've got. We've collaborated with a lot of folks here internally to start to understand where we could bring more value into the developer docs. And this is just the start, right? One of the other parts that I think is really exciting for me and our team, as far as that community aspect, is if you see something missing on this website, or maybe you want to make a change to the functionality or add a new feature to the site, for example, you see this little icon up here. For those of you that are familiar, this is GitLab, which is where we store all of our code for our repositories, and the developer website is one of those. So if you click that little icon, you're going to be taken to our public-facing repo for the website. All the code that runs developer.trackvia.com is now made public to our community. We have a guide for you to understand how to submit requests if you have content changes that you would like to see, or an improvement to the site that you'd like to see. You can create an issue here in GitLab, and that will notify our team and kind of open up that door of collaboration to start working through how we can make that change. You also have the ability to check out the site locally and do development against this website directly from your laptop, make some code changes, and submit a code review or a merge request to indicate what those changes are that you'd like to make, and be able to collaborate with our TrackVia engineers to do so. So we really, as mentioned, we really want this to be a team effort, a collaborative opportunity for us to understand where we can improve this documentation, and eventually, and in turn, as we were teasing earlier, start to work together on the code for the APIs and the SDKs, the components that make up that toolkit. This is kind of the first step and the first effort in that vein. So, and then the other thing, just to call out while I've got the screen, that we're going to be talking about next, but I'll give a teaser now, is our developer community as part of this experience. And so, outside of just submitting issues and requests for the developer documentation specifically, we want to create a community where you can come and submit requests for anything in the system, any feature changes, anything that's going to kind of play in this developer space. We're envisioning kind of a Reddit style upvoting for folks to collaborate and rank what the most important things that we can look to bring through this developer experience, and kind of help us prioritize the roadmap moving forward. So I think that's enough of a sneak peek from my side. As Derek mentioned, we welcome your ideas and questions, and anything that you think we can bring more value to this new product to your own TrackVia developers. We're excited to work with you to do so.
Nice. I just want to throw in how amazingly powerful it is to be able to, right? All of you that are attending this webinar today, you use this documentation, you develop against the TrackVia API, right? If you find a piece of information or you understand something that is not documented, we would love, right, for you to come into this site and post basically you can, make the update, right? And then we get to review it and launch it into the site. And so it's really a catalyst for everyone to kind of work together to share the best information that's out there, right? So hopefully, you can see the value and start using that, right? And then I do want to call out one other thing that you mentioned, and I think we actually got a question about this from Tom. Or actually, Tom, it wasn't quite a question, but a comment. But nonetheless, I think it's important to talk about here. Historically, our app script documentation has lived on the developer docs page, okay? We've actually moved that out of the developer docs site, okay? So what you'll see here is if you find the app script section, it says there's a brief description of app scripts. We've actually moved that over to the knowledge base. That's just help.trackvia.com. Okay, so now there's a full section in the regular knowledge base about app scripts, and all the information that used to be there has been moved over, as well as some new information as well. Okay, so important to note. And then love this question from Vanya. Will TrackVia ever have a dark mode? I can't comment and say yes or no, but I know we've talked about it, and it's something that I'd like to see added to the platform as well. So we'll cross our fingers for that one, Vanya. But it's a good feature enhancement. Yep.
Yep.
The other thing that Tom mentioned was the Swagger page. I don't know if you want to show us that real quick, Kyle. For those of you who don't know it, the way that Tom put this in the comments was that it's like a Postman Lite for the TrackVia API. So this is a really cool resource. If you haven't checked it out before, I highly suggest it. It allows you to test out API calls really, really easily. So yeah, I don't know if that's anything you want to expand on there, Kyle, but.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can come here, jump into the Open API docs, kind of understand all of the endpoints that we have, available through our Open API. Start to understand the parameters that are necessary to pass, what those responses are going to look like as you interact with the API. Allows you to pass the appropriate authentication that you need to be able to make those calls. Can test against Sandbox now is another thing that we've added into this kind of update on the Swagger docs. So. This and the Postman collection, as Tom mentioned, you've kind of got Postman Lite here with the Open API, and then the more deep API collections. If you're familiar with using Postman, both of those are great resources to interact with the Open API.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Okay, great. So I think what we'll do here is I will pull back the screen share. That's everything you wanted to show off, right, Kyle?
I believe so. I could talk about all the pages on the site, but I'll save it for for the feedback coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I haven't seen any. What else do you want to see come through yet? Potentially, maybe because you wanted to see the new things that we have recently launched before you commented. But now that you've seen it, would love to hear your thoughts on what else you'd like to see added to the resources for you. Okay. All right. So then let's talk about what's next, right? You just saw the first steps that we've taken. What's next, Kyle, in terms of our developer experience?
Yeah, so as I kind of teased right there at the end of the site demo, but the next step that we feel is important to get started on is opening up that developer community kind of forum on the developer site, right? And so that will be a place that we open up that collaboration, kind of like forum or a message board, and allow all of you to start submitting more general requests, not just specific to the developer docs, but all of our low-code toolkit. Start to get those suggestions in there and start collaborating with you all, whether it be problems that you're facing as you interact with these tools, or new ideas or new solutions that you've created that you think might be helpful to the developer community here. That's the kind of information that we're looking to grow on that space, and that'll be our next big focus to get out there, because we want to get feedback from you all and help have that drive some of our prioritization of what's going on with this developer experience roadmap going into the second half of the year. To follow that, the new kind of exciting thing that we're focusing on around the developer experience program is a pretty significant improvement to our API and SDK capabilities that are out there. To speak to a few opportunities that I know we have to improve upon are some of our search and filter capabilities against the API and the SDKs. Those have been long asked for some areas of improvement, and so that's where we'll be able to focus, bring more value. The way that we're kind of taking an approach to doing that, to get a little into the weeds, is looking at for our APIs and SDKs, doing a little bit of work to separate out and make it a more customizable requesting the metadata and the record data from a particular API call or request, right? There's a lot of overhead in the current API approach to query all of that metadata and all of that record data on every request. And we'd like to give you all a little bit more flexibility to request all of that or pieces of that in a little bit more flexible and much more performant fashion. And so we're kind of taking an approach to our API being able to auto-generate the SDKs that we're going to make available to you all using some wonderful new technologies from AWS. And what that'll allow us to do is bring a lot more endpoints and functionality to those SDKs, also bring them to you in a lot more languages that we currently support today, and cut down on some of the overhead and kind of manual efforts of us supporting all of those SDKs in kind of a more manual fashion like we do today. And so that's all on the horizon for, I know we'll get asked a little bit on timeline on this, so that's all on the horizon for Q4, and we are targeting to bring you some of that value on some of the first SDKs around October. So that's kind of the time frame. Developer community next, getting that rolled out, and then starting that effort on the kind of more robust and auto-generated SDKs for the Q4 of this year. That's what's coming next, Derek.
I think I was muted. Awesome. Yeah. That's some of that stuff is a little bit above my pay grade, but it sounds powerful. All right, so let's talk about, I think the only thing left here is some questions. So I've seen a couple come through. Let's start with Wakas. If we have any recommended tool for analyzing the performance of app scripts. It's a really interesting question. In the past, I know, and Kyle, maybe you know of another way to do this, but I know that some of our customers have, or you can open your network console and look at the time that it takes to, save a record or, the app scripts to run. And then you can kind of tweak your app script to try to cut down on that time. That's really the only way that I've seen folks do it, but I'm not sure if you have any other insight there.
Yeah, I think maybe specific to app scripts, and I know it wasn't about microservices, but I think I'd apply the same kind of similar approach there. From a logging perspective, right? If you're able to capture, logs that are happening as far as the start of an event and the end of an event, you could put timers essentially in the code to be able to track when the transaction started, when the transaction ended. That's one idea. I think the network tab option and understanding how long the end-to-end transaction is going to take from the click of save until that record save response comes back in the network tab, you would get an understanding of that, the milliseconds in that window, and be able to kind of tweak your app script and understand if you've got an opportunity to significantly cut that down if you're seeing some heavy load times on an app script save. But those are the kind of two ideas that come to mind for that specifically. And I think we've got more options on the microservice side of things and integrations to be able to add those logs to be able to kind of track, exact times of when a particular event in that script occurs. So it's a good question.
Point. I know we'll cross your question was about app scripts, but I know, if you're leveraging the integration platform or Workato, I think it does capture the duration of the job or the integration that runs. So I think that's kind of built in. The other thing I would say in terms of app scripts is, we do have best practices to help make sure your app scripts are running efficiently. And I think those are documented in the app scripts section that Kyle showed, but also in the TrackVia University course on writing app scripts and building performant applications. So I check those out, check those resources out.
Yeah, I highly suggest to look at a lot of the new information under app scripts that's been published in the knowledge base. The team really kind of took the previous documentation that we had, and I use the word robustified, if I can say that, really added more pages, a little bit more clarity on where to go to look for things. And so I think you'll find that documentation on app scripts in the knowledge base, hopefully a lot more helpful than before. And if there's still things missing, please let us know.
Awesome. I saw a question come in from Vanya. It's a little bit, I think, specific, Vanya, to your use case. So we might follow up with you after. But utilization thresholds, in terms of API usage, we do have those documented now in the new developer docs site. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there should be a little bit of an overview on the new developer docs around the API and microservices and some of the kind of hardware and kind of environment that is being used to run those, and a little bit of understanding on usage thresholds.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. What else? We'll give you a couple minutes here to ask questions, submit ideas, right? Remember, what else would you like to see added to our developer site, to the developer experience in general, tools that would really help you, any ideas at all? Happy to talk about those.
Yeah, to Derek's point, on providing those ideas and feedback, I welcome you all to try. If you've got a GitLab, you will need a GitLab account to submit issues to us for the developer docs site. Real quick and easy to set up, very similar to GitHub. But yeah, I welcome and invite you all to access that page and try to create an issue or a request with whatever new content or new idea or what have you that you would like to see on the developer site. We've got engineers chomping at the bit to see what ideas and things that you all can come up with. And with this new site and new platform, our ability to turn around these changes really quickly and get them published on the site is a lot easier and faster than we were able to do in the past. So we're excited to continue to bring that iterative value to you, and looking forward to see what you have to bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. You can submit it there as well. Yep. Okay. I think we got one coming through here from Michael. Let's see. All right, has anyone requested or suggested a trace? So when I add a record, what happens? What are all the things that happen when I create a record in TrackVia is, I think, the way that I'm interpreting this question, Michael. Or when you update a record, what are all the things that happen in TrackVia? What other records are updated? What tables are involved? And so forth.
Yeah, that's a really clever idea, and we've got some pieces of the system that would allow us to kind of expose those events that are happening, right? Whether it's an app script or a microservice that's firing a record request, for example, in another table, that's creating an audit log or an audit record or audit event against that newly created or updated record. And so, yeah, I think there's an opportunity probably for us to think about, exposing those events on behalf of the triggering record, right? If you could kind of from the history on a particular table or particular record, being able to understand from there what other records were updated from that event, I think would be pretty neat to understand that kind of chain of how many tables or records, for example, are impacted from one transaction. To your comment, Michael. So yeah, I will take note on that. That's an interesting idea for us to explore. And I think there's a handful of ways we could think about exposing that in the UI from a understanding or traceability or troubleshooting perspective. So that's great feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Love that request. Make sure to get that logged and talk about it internally. Yeah, got a good comment here from Ricardo. Ricardo would like more examples of microservice projects with snippets of code like a hello world example. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with microservices. Just what are some of them, right? Or what are some examples and things that I can look at to either use or build my own, I assume. Yeah, so I don't know if we have plans for anything like that, Kyle.
Yeah, this is a wonderful question. I'm glad this got brought up because on the previous developer site, we did have a few just really basic examples. But I think there was a form stack merging microservice, and then maybe one other that I don't have pulled up here. But in the effort of improving this developer community and starting to open the doors to kind of open source of the code that we've got running all of these tools and services, we've started to actually build out kind of a microservice library, if you will, right? One of the and what we're doing is as we get these use cases that come in that we're maybe building for customers or even building internally, we're asking ourselves, is there a way to publish this so that other people could use this microservice, right? And one of the examples we've got it, I could link you to after the webinar, but we created a microservice that generates a QR code upon record save, right? It takes some data from TrackVia, generates a QR code, and then saves that image back to the record in TrackVia upon a particular record transaction event. We've made that into a reusable microservice and want to be able to essentially hand you all a link to the open source repository of that code to say, here's the microservice, here's how you can configure it with the particular parameters or options that we've exposed to you, and here's the instructions to go drop it into your project, your use case, and start using that microservice, right? And so that's kind of the workflow or the I guess vision a little bit of the microservice library that I think we will start to offer. We'll start it with just repositories in GitLab that you all have access to see and explore, and continue to add those use cases there as they come up internally. And then as well as any that are a continued demand, right? If there's a particular use case of a microservice that everybody's wanting to use, record archiving is another one that we've built that I want to just tease here while I've got the floor of being able to have a microservice that allows you to regularly archive records against your tables, which is something that has been asked in the past, right? So these microservices are coming to fruition, and let's get them into a space where you all can download them and use them. And then also understand if there's high demand for a microservice, it probably means we should look at productizing that and making that perhaps a first-class feature in TrackVia that doesn't necessitate a custom microservice. And so we're also using this kind of workflow to help us drive, building it first with the microservice, letting it, get legs, and then see how we can productize it in the future. So wonderful question. And yeah, that's something that we plan to bring value to, kind of in the same timeline as that developer community here in the next quarter.
Great. Yeah, really good point. And we have done that in the past too. So productizing a microservice that was a popular one, right? So great. Let's see here. Question from Sarah: would archive allow or ease the ability to display history to end users? Perhaps, Sarah. I guess it's the way that you implement the archiving feature. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, the archive functionality that you're talking about is more like taking whole records and moving them out of a table into like an archived location, not necessarily all the history associated with each of those records. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Thank you for the discrepancy and clarification there. Yeah. The archive microservice that we've developed thus far is primarily focused around table performance and tables and views that have millions of records that are historical data that we don't really need to be querying every single time we hit those views with the filters applied, right? And so what we developed so far is kind of a scheduled microservice that's able to run periodically look at those particular tables with a filter applied that you're familiar with building in the product, right? And with that filter, we take records out of that source table and move them to another location so that table that's being used for daily work and regular queries could be as performant as possible. And so that's been really the first focus of this service, but we're starting to get it out there in use cases with customers and exploring, what more we can do with this capability for filtering and performance, but maybe as well thinking about history as well.
Sarah, the other thing I'll throw out is I'm not sure, maybe about a year ago or so, we actually did a webinar on creating a history table, quote unquote history table, by utilizing the app scripts feature. So that webinar is recorded, and in the webinar library, you might want to check that one out if you haven't already, that talks about creating a history log that end users could possibly see. So yeah, check that one out.
Good call.
All right, I think that's all the questions that I see. So if we didn't get to your question, I think we hit them all. Maybe Vanya will follow up with you on yours. But yeah, we'll follow up with you after the webinar. Check out the new DevDocs page, check out the new API course, and remember, you do now have the power, the ability to upload and add to the developer docs site, right, to help each other best develop API integrations. So yeah, I hope you like what you saw today. Any other questions, let us know. But let's wrap things up here. Yep, like I said, check out the developer resources. If you have questions or need help with anything, of course, we have support that's always able to help. I think it was, maybe it was Wakas's question about, the performance of app scripts, right? If you have an app script that's not performing well, right, reach out, right? You can't figure out a way to make it perform better, reach out to us. We're always here to help you, right? Support's going to be a really good avenue for that. And then, of course, we have professional services that can help you do more complex development, right? You want to build a microservice, you need some assistance. Our professional services team is always here to help you with that. Okay. Yeah, and when you sign off of the webinar today, you'll see a short survey. Please take a minute to fill it out if you have a couple of minutes. We're always looking for feedback on the webinars, and we want to make sure that these webinars are meeting your needs. We're talking about the topics that are going to help you. So please let us know your thoughts. And then, of course, we'll post the webinar recording shortly after the session today. All right, still don't see any other questions, so we'll call it. Thanks everyone for joining. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today as well. Good to have you. And
looking forward to the merge requests and the issues coming in on the developer docs site. I'll be refreshing my browser tab, waiting for these inbounds. So looking forward to seeing them from you all.
That's right. Get ready for a flood of them, hopefully.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next month on our next webinar. All right. Take care.
Cheers, everybody.